Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ross, Steven Naismith and Hugh McDonald here with me on this Thursday ahead of a big Europa League night for Rangers against Slavia Prague. You can give us your prediction on that. You can follow us and share the stream on our Facebook page, and you can hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel as well. We'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on the big games, not only tonight for British clubs in the Europa League, but to the weekend in the Premiership, where, of course, there is the small matter of Celtic against Rangers on the Sunday. We'll get the predictions from all these guys here on that as well. So, without wasting too much time, big one, Rangers, Slavia Prague. It's a great chance to get into the last 8. Steven Naismith and Steven Gerrard has said this is one of the biggest games since he arrived at Rangers.
It is. But they've consistently, since his time here, has done very well in Europe. And sitting here at this point, I never look at a Rangers European game and feel they're going to get beat. They've done so well. They've got so much character, and in a lot of the games they have exceeded expectations. Last week, we know what had went on the week before, so I think that did play a part. I said last week, the first 20 minutes they would probably struggle and it would be leggy, and it was that way. But I think now they've had the full week to work on it, and like you say, how big an opportunity it is. I think they'll be very confident being at home. They don't give MD an easy game at home. They've got a threat from all angles, and I feel tonight's going to be another one of Europe at Ibrox.
Yeah, our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks ahead to the big match.
Rangers look to improve on their already stunning season as they welcome Slavia Prague to Ibrox here this evening, looking to go one step further in the Europa League than last year and reach the quarter-finals. The tie is finally poised at 1-1 after last week's enthralling draw in the Czech Republic, where the Gers struggled early on. They battled back. And manager Steven Gerrard has already labelled the game as one of the biggest since he arrived at the club. He wants his side to be at it from the off.
I want us to really come out the blocks quicker tomorrow. We've had a better preparation going into this game, which everyone will be aware of. But I want us to really show that we can play both sides of the game, really tough. I want Slavia to really feel us. I want us to be aggressive, but at the same time, we have to show that we're a good team.
Ryan Jack and James Tavernier are still injured, so Nathan Patterson and Joe Aribo will keep their starting place. Scott Arfield could feature in the midfield, and he feels that Slavia, who are unbeaten in 18 games, are one of the best teams out there.
This is a top team we're playing against tomorrow night. One of the strongest teams in the competition. So to get through here will be a great success for us and to go forward.
So the Gers are favourites to progress, and reaching the last 8 would not only be an improvement on last campaign, but it also could secure an automatic Champions League group stage place from 2022. Now, Steven Gerrard's men will be wary of the way that Slavia beat Leicester 2-0 away from home in the last round, but they've had all week to prepare for this one, and they'll be right up for it. Kick-off is at 8.
Yeah, and of course, everybody knows that Slavia Prague could be troublesome away from home, Roughie, because they've got a good record. They are a team that proved against Leicester City that they can go away from home and get a win.
Yeah, I think these two particular stats, unbeaten in 18, and obviously the Leicester win and other away wins as well in Europe, will be the warning for Rangers. But as Naisy says, Rangers have got the same form here, and in Europe as well, particularly at home. Just look at the goals conceded. It's fantastic, the run that they're on. So it'll be a big game. I think the Rangers manager will know that all the players have got to be top form, because this is a good side. But I think if they could get an early goal, it would settle everybody a wee bit, and that knowing what they need to get. So I'm sure he's right in what he's saying, because there's a few of these players look pretty dangerous at home, and I think they'll get the win.
Yeah, the stats certainly, Hugh, favour Rangers on home form. Only one defeat in 23 home matches in European football over the last few periods, with Steven Gerrard especially in the last 3 seasons producing some really good performances at home.
Yeah, against really good sides as well. I mean, against sides that that were predicted to come and dominate Rangers. I'm thinking of Porto, Braga, that sort of Portuguese treble, Benfica. I mean, they were all, and other teams as well, were all expected to come and dominate Rangers technically. And Rangers haven't been dominated technically or tactically. I mean, Europe is actually where the Gerrard, Beale, McAllister game plan has really been very, very impressive. I mean, I agree with Stephen. There's not a feeling of great trepidation when you watch Rangers in Europe now. It's not. I'm not saying it's a win tonight's nailed on. This is a really good Prague side, and a Prague side that beat a very good Leicester side to get to this stage. A Leicester side, by the way, that people were calling the reserve side. But if you look at that Leicester side that night, Peter, the only real big name missing from it was Maddison. Johnny Evans, Schmeichel, and Didi were all in there. Castagna came on. Tillmans was playing, so it was a good Leicester side. But you go into the match feeling this is going to be an excellent match to watch, and with some confidence. I think it's 60-40 in Rangers, in Rangers' favour as we sit at the moment, Peter.
Yeah, one of the things that interested me, Roughie, and I think you're best placed out of everyone, and forgive me, Stephen and Hugh, for dismissing you on this one, but one of the quotes that came from their coach, Trusovski, about the save from last week. There's no doubt about it. It was absolutely world class, Alan McGregor's save, but he said he thought it was better than Gordon Banks' save against Pelly, and I thought to myself, nah, I'm not having that. Good save it was, yes. It's not better than that one. In fact, I would go as far as to say I still think Alan McGregor's save against Boubacar Sanogo against Werder Bremen was
absolutely
was just better than last week. So, Roughie, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I think the Alan McGregor save was a world-class save, and I've said on numerous occasions, it's when he made the save. It's right at the end of the game. The importance of making the save, that keeps them at one each. All that piled together, it makes it a fantastic save. But for me, the Gordon Banks one, Gordon Banks had to move across the goal. I think he started about the halfway, right in the middle of the goal, and he had to move to that corner where the head is going. So I think he had a lot more to do with Pelly's header, but still, I wouldn't take end away for Alan McGregor. It was an absolutely world-class save.
Yeah, I noticed that you were in agreement there, Hugh.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Bremen that night, and I think if you watch things live, you had a look at that night. Everybody just looked around and said, "That's obviously just hit McGregor. It's just hit him. He's got lucky, and it's looped over the bar." And then when we were in the press room afterwards and we saw the replay, I mean, everybody was mouths agape. I mean, it was very similar actually to the Banks save against Pelly, and it was a downward header. The goalkeeper had to move right, and he had to get down and lift it away and over the bar. I think that was his greatest save. I think, interestingly, that's a nice kind of argument for everybody to have. But I think, interestingly, Rangers' domination domestically this season and their really impressive form in Europe. You would expect, a forward or something like that to be man of the season. And yes, there's been really good performances from forwards and midfield. Steve Davis. Yeah, I still think if I had to vote, I do have a vote in the football writers. Alan McGregor will be my vote for player of the season, and that's strange when you look at a team winning things. But I think that's how significant and influential he's been for Rangers this season.
Yeah, it's a great debate. Obviously, a lot of people side with Tavernier because he's come back from, many people think he was on his way out at Rangers. He scored a lot of penalties, but he's certainly improved greatly, Stephen, from the criticism that was levelled at the Rangers captain, which was he couldn't defend going back the way. This is a solid unit that's only conceded 9 goals.
Yeah, but for me, that part of that, in the past teams he's played in, the structure of the team hasn't helped him be as free-flowing going forward, that then gives him the cover. He's exposed going back, whereas the manager and the coaching staff have identified the way they play now, that when he goes forward and a team counter them, it's the midfield block that become effectively the first line of defence to then let the whole group regroup and get back into position. So that's helped them enormously. But then he's been part of this team that's only lost 7-8 goals domestically, that the defending, he's played as big a part in that as a lot of others. So for me, like you said there, I think a lot of people will pick him because of the history or his journey in a Rangers career. But I can't look past Devo and Griggsy, what they've brought. I don't think the Rangers would have been in this last year, being in this position, if it wasn't for they two and their guidance.
Yeah, one of the guys who has learned quite a lot from him is young McCrory at Livingston, and he has been raving about him.
I don't think there's any argument that he's probably one of the best keepers that's been at Rangers. He's definitely up there. In what a season he's had, and I don't think there's anyone better for me to learn off it. If you want to know how to try and get to Tottenham, that's your man, to get all the advice, and just watch how he plays. I mean, some of the saves is obviously unbelievable.
Peter,
yeah, Robbie McCrory.
On Griggsy there, I like how he kind of leads by example as well. On the Sunday after they'd won the league, the seeing him in the changing room and that, he was, I think, showing the boys how to celebrate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, even the manager, I think, did a dive right across the dressing room. So everybody got involved in it, and rightly so, because there are a lot of Rangers fans, as you mentioned, on more than a few occasions, Stephen, have waited a long time to celebrate a title when it's been a long journey, and they are worthy champions. As far as the match tonight, obviously we're going to get a prediction from you guys on how you think it's going to go. First of all, Roughie, I've got 2-1 Rangers, and Rangers through into the last 8.
Yeah, well, as you know, I've changed day by day. Yesterday it was 1 each, and to win on penalties. I'm now thinking that this team really know that they need to score 2 goals, so I think there's going to be gaps here. So I'm going to go like you. I'm going to go Rangers to win 2-1.
Oh, right, there you are. And this is the great thing about the show now, Hugh. With Roughie, you never know where he's going to go, whether he switches from, he's like the weather cockerel, you know, depending on the wind and whether he's had a wee chat with somebody, changes his mind.
I mean, he's like what we were talking about earlier, but these videos like the footballers send in to managers, and they just cherry pick. So Roughie's gone through every single possible permutation. So that tonight, when Rangers win, you know, on penalties, you can say, yeah, I predicted that. If Rangers win 2-1, he says, well, I predicted that as well.
On Tuesday,
Rangers, you know, Slavia Prague win, he says, well, funnily enough, I said that last Wednesday. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
But I haven't said that. I think 2-1's a pretty good score, because I think Slavia Prague will score. I think they've got the potential to score. But more and more is with Rangers in Europe. I just feel, you know, it's strange to see it, because they're unbeaten in the league domestically, but I think actually Europe is more suited to them. I think this is like almost like their natural habitat tonight. So I'm really I'm looking forward to the game, because it's two sides that want to play football as well.
Yeah, what was your scoreline?
I'll go 2-1 as well. I'll just make it I'll take one of Roughie's predictions and stick with one of his predictions.
Well, the show's not finished yet. That could change.
Yeah, you can change. Roughie reserves the right to cover all bets on this one. Of course, Stephen, Hugh made a very good point there, and we've been emphasising this. I think I heard Brian Laudrup talking about the game, and he said, you know, listen, this side are geared towards playing away from home. They're good, they're dangerous, they can't be underestimated or even considered in any way out of this tie. They've scored at least 1 goal, Stephen, in 11 of the last 13 away games.
it suits them. It definitely does. I think the Leicester game shows that. They were very comfortable in that. And with the scoreline being so tight, they can afford to sit tight early on in the game, feel their way into the game. But I think even from Steven Gerrard's comments there, he'll have the players fired up. So they'll come out the traps very quickly on the attack. But I think his main talking points in the build up to the game will be clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet. And I think that they will get a clean sheet tonight. And I think Rangers will go through 2-0.
Right, okay. We've all given a prediction. You can offer us your prediction, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, or indeed Facebook. We'll continue with our fingers crossed, because obviously these coefficient points count for Scottish clubs as far as next season's competitions. And remember, there's a kind of 3 tiers of European football on offer for everyone, as well as the Champions League places, Europa League, and then below that there's another level of European football. Again, some people being highly critical of it, suggesting that it's just the dross of the clubs involved in Europe who can't make it to the big 2 competitions. But I think that's slightly too harsh on it. Whether it's got any appeal or not is open to debate. But still, we'd love to see the more Scottish clubs are involved in football that can bring them extra revenue, the better. For me, you might disagree. Give us your thoughts. Give us your prediction ahead of the night. It's 8 o'clock, the kickoff for that one. And then, of course, lots of people after the game tonight will switch their attention to the champions heading to Celtic Park and the big game on Sunday, the Old Firm derby. Steven Naismith, I've got to ask you first and foremost. I've looked at so many people. I think there's more of a clamour from certain journalists about a guard of honour than there is anyone in either camp of Celtic and Rangers. Does it matter to the players? Is it? Brendan Rodgers said, it would be a touch of class. It hasn't happened before. Does it matter to players? Do they bother about that sort of thing?
Who cares? That's exactly what a player's mindset is. Who cares whether there's a guard of honour or not? The prize has been won. That's all every player's been fighting for all this season, is to win the trophy. So the whole like you say, that it becomes a bigger media story the more people pressurise it and build it up. And this is what happened in the past. He said this in the past. Who cares? They're going to go on the pitch, play the game, and at the end of the game, Rangers are going to try and rub it in Celtic's face that they're champions, have a party at Celtic Park, and Celtic are going to try and stop a humiliation happening in their own stadium. That is in the nuts and bolts of it. So I think it's a lot of kind of media attention over really nothing from a player's point of view anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the key issue here, and I always try and deal with the stats on it, Hugh. The league's won. If anybody wants to go and walk out onto that park, it's the Rangers players with their chest puffed out after such a long time waiting for it, and they've won the league. They've deserved it.
Oh, absolutely deserved it. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, it's actually been it's been a shocking thing. I mean, it's a sort of campaign, and and nobody would have predicted at the beginning of the season. You know, even if you're picking, and remember how strong favourite Celtic were at the beginning. Even if you're picking Rangers to break the domination, nobody's saying it's overdone by even before the third Old Firm match. Even before that, it's done and dusted. Nobody's saying that. I mean, it's so it's been a shocking campaign. In terms of just how straightforward it has been for Rangers, and I think in many ways as well is that it's actually been sort of undervalued outside Rangers. I mean, I know the fans, the Rangers fans and the players and everyone absolutely delighted about the whole thing. But just the level of how Rangers have played, Peter, and the run they've got together and the statistics that they've compiled in this league campaign has been really, really impressive. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff's been on in the Celtic implosion, and there's been so many extraordinary Celtic stories over the last 6 to 9 months, you know, from balling goalie through Dubai to the demise of Neil Lennon. You know, it's been a long narrative. But if you take a cold, hard look at what Rangers, have achieved this season, it's really been astonishing. And this European night just complements that feeling of a spectacular season.
Yeah, if anything, Roughie, the only thing at stake, as well as obviously people saying there's pride at stake for Celtic who don't want to lose another derby. This would be their third loss this season. If anything, Roughie, it's one of those games where they get a chance to, some of them play for their future, some of them play for their departure, some of them just set a little marker down that, that they're still able to compete with Rangers, despite the fact Rangers are the champions. I just wonder what the incentive is. Is it enough in the squad that they have available and the inexperience of their caretaker manager to produce a shock in your mind?
Yeah, I think the incentive they've got to do well in the game is for their teammates. You've been playing with your teammates a whole year and it hasn't went particularly well. You've got a chance, you've got a game to sort of rectify, not all of it, but a wee bit of it. So I think collectively the players have got a duty to go out there and perform, because a lot of them have got a reasonable bit of ability. They're not a dud team. They've got quality in there. So it doesn't matter who it is, if you don't want somebody coming to your own park and celebrating, that's the motive, to make sure that doesn't happen. You don't want the opposition jumping about in the dressing rooms and about the park. So for me, that would be the motivation. And a guard of honour wouldn't make any difference, because if you're in the receiving end of a guard of honour, you might be getting clapped onto the park, but that's not what the players will be thinking. They'll be wanting to kick lumps at you as soon as the game starts. So I think Guard of Honours are at the beginning of the season when the flag's getting unfurled, and unfortunately whoever that team is should give them a clap onto the park.
Yeah, okay. You can give us your thoughts on it, on whether you're all for Guards of Honour, start of the season, Old Firm games. I think it's a nonsense. I don't think it'll happen. Hasn't happened in the time that I can recall going to these games, but listen, everybody has their opinion on it. One thing I was going to mention to you, Stephen, I was going to do it at the top of the programme, but I think it's come into my head and it's only pertinent to do it now. Everyone, absolutely everyone on the football show has been, like so many from the Rangers camp, wishing the very best to Walter Smith. I'm sure it would have come as a shock to you as well. And you'll be hoping your old gaffer is back to full fitness soon.
Yeah. I think when the news kind of was floating about and the rumours were floating about, it was not a nice feeling when you first kind of hear about it and you get a few texts about it. And when I've actually started to speak to a few people about it's funny to say it, but my recollection of him and my thoughts of him are all just that he was indestructible. He was just this strong, unbelievable character that had the right answers to everything, and it was never, nothing could hurt him. That is my thought process when I'm thinking about him. But yeah, from hearing that he's went through the operation, everything's good, and he's on the mend, that is the biggest thing. And the one thing that I like to see, and I have heard from a lot of outputs in that, is that not just Rangers fans and that the whole of the football world in Scotland is thinking and saying great things about him, and that shows you the stature of the man.
Yeah, right across the board, Hugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if you're going to have a word that would sum up people's attitude to Walter Smith, it'd be respect. I mean, respect by players underneath anybody that came into contact. A real decency about Walter. I mean, I met him before the first Old Firm game of the season for a sit down for a couple of hours. Ended up yakking about football. Ended up picking his best Rangers 11 that he'd worked with and all that. And he's so open. He was really looking strong and well at the time. In fact, when I went away to the car, I said, "Goodness gracious, that's just like he hasn't changed. He's just the same, very dapper, looked fit, still doing a bit of training," he was saying in the morning. So, but yeah, I mean, an immense respect for him. He'd won that thing. I'm always interested in managers, and Steven and Alan have obviously got, real hands-on experience of working with managers, but I always think, see something a manager, it's almost intangible. See if you're a manager and players want to impress you, like players want to play for you. If you have that, it's beyond charisma, Peter. I don't know what it is. It's like a strength or some almost like a paternal thing that players want to impress you, want to do well for you. And I don't think Walter Smith had that. You know, players always wanted to impress him. Players always wanted to play with, to play for him as well.
Definitely.
And I think, see, the you know, he's got a long career. But we were talking we're talking with other journalists about it. And see, his second spell at Rangers, the spell that Steven was there for, that was a. See, looking back on it, Peter, that was a hugely impressive spell. You know, like, if you think about it, taking over from the wreckage of Le Guen and then going on and winning titles and going to, which is very pertinent tonight, isn't it? Going to a final of a European tournament. I just thought, see, when you look back in that period, you know, it's really significant, and it really speaks to his, you know, his abilities as a manager and as a coach.
Hugh, that's when I was saying he just seemed to have all the right answers. See, in that period, the only thing that really stopped us from, in my first year there, was the amount of games we had. It wasn't as if managerial decisions cost us the league or anything. We were in all four fronts for so long. That's what stopped them. And then for the next 3 years, we won the league. He just knew what to do in every aspect of the game. And just touching on that feeling he had, he definitely had this aura that he would walk in. He didn't need to say a thing, and he just boom. Everybody the atmosphere in the room would change. Whether that's him celebrating or whether that's him half time or before a game, he knew the right things to say, and he just had this presence about him which was special.
See as well,
Yeah,
Steve.
absolutely.
See, like said, see when the end of that season, which you know ended in defeat in Manchester, the result at Pittodrie. I remember him at Pittodrie. He comes in, and you know the wheels have come off, and he knows it. The amount of games. He actually, not only did he not mention that because he knew it'd be construed as an excuse or that, he batted away invitations to talk about that. Not only did he not raise it, but he wouldn't address it because he was intelligent enough to know the way it would be reported, and B, it wasn't a route he wanted to go down. He just didn't want. That wasn't his style. His style wasn't, blame this, blame that. This is the way it was. This is what happened. We regroup. We move on. And the great thing about it is as well is you probably had it as well, Stephen, is the Walter stare, and Peter all have had it as well. The Walter stare, which they all talk about global warming now, Peter. All they have to do is get Walter out of that hospital and get him to do that chilling stare for a couple of minutes, and the whole temperatures will just drop.
Yeah, to be fair, I've had to stare a couple of times, but to be fair to him, he doesn't hold grudges. What he does is he comes back to you and he'll tell you at a point. He'll come back and tell you at a point, why you're getting the stare, and he'll explain it out to you. And then of course there's times when I love the wind up with him as well, because he walked into a press conference one day and my nephew had bought me a bag to carry all my recording equipment in. And he bought it as a present, so I thought, I can't not use it, And it was a Paul Smith designer bag, and I kid you not, Walter gave me pelters for it. He walked in, and just as he's walking in, he went, "You're kidding me, aren't you? What is that bag all about?" And he just gave me pelters, and I thought, I'm just going to have to sit and take this. There's no way out. You had to get battered and then maybe get them back at a later date. But listen, everybody, and lots of people on here, lots of Celtic fans, football fans from every club, wishing him a speedy recovery. But I just thought it was nice to get a little touch from yourself, Stephen, because he's your gaffer, and he always will be your gaffer from your time at Rangers, never to be forgotten. And certainly, hopefully, you'll have more than a few years with him over the next few years. Speedy recovery and best wishes from everyone on the football show and the lots of people who are here who watch this show regularly. As far as managers, they come and go. As far as Celtic are concerned, we've talked about the possibility. I'll get your predictions on the game for the weekend as well, guys. But they're all talking about the possibility of a manager coming in. The latest one was RB Salzburg coach Jesse Marsch. He's one of a number that are all being touted as a potential Celtic manager. For me, I'm laying my cards out on the table. I did it yesterday, guys. Roughie knows the score. I think Steve Clarke is the man that they will pursue. My gut feeling is, the more and more I look at it, I think they'll wait for the Euros and go for him. And the reasons I think that, Stephen, is quite simply that they cannot have a season for somebody to bed in. They need somebody who knows the game, who's got a good coaching prowess, and can redress the balance immediately.
He's definitely a manager that can do that. He's got the experience. I think what he's done with the national team from working with him, he's very good on all levels, whether that's on the pitch, the way he manages the group, his expectations and his standards. So I wouldn't be surprised in that. It's been one of those that before Lennon got the job, there was a bit of he was touted to be involved in maybe getting it then. So I think there's no smoke without fire with him. But for me, Celtic at the moment, even watching them since John Kenny's been taking them, they seem a bit lost just in that. No, and I've been there as a player where you're at a club, there's a change of manager, and then it's just a bit of who's getting it. There's no real focus on how we move forward. And I feel Celtic are in that moment at the time. So if it is for somebody like Steve Clarke, who I don't think will do anything before the Euros, that's a long time to wait. And like you say, next season is humongous for Celtic.
Hugh?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, Peter, is we always, as journalists, we read the runes of a press conference, we go through them and dissect every word and every nod and every phrase and how people looked. And I think the fact that he didn't rule it out is pretty significant. I'm not saying that means he's going to get it, but I think it means that there might be stuff going on behind the scenes. There might be at least be discussions. I don't think Jesse Marsch is going to come to Celtic Park. If you read his quotes, they were very diplomatic and really non-controversial. But Jesse Marsch at the moment is probably likely, it's almost certainly going to go to Mönchengladbach, or at least be in the discussions for the Borussia Mönchengladbach job, very strongly in the discussions for that. He's also in the discussions for the Schalke job, and people will say, well, Schalke are a Bundesliga 2 club, or shortly to be a Bundesliga 2 club, but that's going to be a huge project with to get them back in with big money, a huge support, 50,000 season ticket holders. He's also, as well, would be if Nagelsmann moved from Leipzig, and at one point the wonder kid that is Nagelsmann is going to move, the same franchise is going to look at Marsch and say, well, you know what, he might be the guy to take over at Leipzig. So there's so much going on in the Bundesliga for Jesse Marsch that I think is really desperately remote that he would even be considered in Scotland. And I think the Clarke thing ticks a lot of boxes as well, because as Stephen said, if, for example, Celtic had won 10 in a row, next season could almost be a freebie. They could say to themselves, well, we've achieved so much. Now we can bring in a new system, a young coach, somebody that that's untried, and give him a go, because the pressure would be off. But having lost it, they've got to address matters very, very quickly. And Steve Clarke has proved not only is he a top class coach, but he's someone who changes things pretty quickly. He hits the ground running.
Yeah. I was a wee bit worried there, Roughie, because the only team that I think Hugh missed out in the Bundesliga was Cologne. He'd gone through every German team extensively there, Roughie. I was getting a bit worried that he'd missed a team out.
Yeah, he certainly knows the Bundesliga. There's no doubt about that. I'm just surprised he never mentioned Dortmund.
Yeah.
Oh no,
well, absolutely.
Nah. We've got our man, Roughie. We've got our man.
Yeah. absolutely. Listen, Stephen, by the time this decision comes about, you'll be back in the Premiership in Scotland. Winter break, couple of weeks in January. Obviously, I don't want to get down the vaccine road, but nevertheless, everybody hopefully will be back to some kind of normality. Are you for the winter break?
I think it is a good thing. In terms of when it falls in the calendar, is maybe debatable how it works, but overall, yes, I think it's a very good thing, and I think it's something that should be fitted in. I think in general now, especially players playing international football, it's a massive toll on you, year on year, trying to get a period of rest that can, one, prevent injuries, and two, kind of sustain your career in the later years. So I'm all for it, and fortunately the last winter break I got a holiday which turned out to be the last holiday I got, so it worked out perfectly for me.
Yeah, it's all about you, isn't it? But anyway, it's a good point you do make though, Stephen, because Roughie, players have been playing non-stop. I mean, there's been no break. I mean, I know some people, there are a hard group of fans who'll say, geez, peace, they're well paid. Not everyone's well paid. A lot of footballers have been through a lot of pain this year. Some thinking they're not going to have a job. Some just desperate to play again. And it's been like this hamster on a wheel situation, Roughie.
No, I think by the time January comes, if you're playing high-profile football and you're playing at the top of your game, there comes a time when you do get a wee bit tired. And I don't mind the break, but as long as the teams don't start playing games, in between that and not using it as a break. But no, I'm all for it. And it just gives you a wee chance to go to Dubai.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the great thing about it from your point of view. I mean, you always like to try and fit in a holiday. Always calls me 3 weeks before it and go, are we taking the winter break just so I can get a wee holiday away? If Roughie doesn't get 4 holidays in a year, there's something far wrong.
Nowadays, Peter, what would be fantastic is if Roughie's on the beach somewhere on the January doing his part for the show every day on the beach. Would be lovely to see.
That's what I like to see. There you are, Stephen. There, just coming up with the commitment
with
of
the speedos on,
even though you're on a beach.
That's
a late night show. To be honest with
I'm
you.
quite happy if you just tell me where you want me to go, where you want to send me. I'll be away. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Siberia. Anyway, apart from anything else, I was going to ask you something, Roughie, which is this: how have the talks gone with the suggestion of Colt teams? You mentioned yesterday that your board were going to discuss it. Have you got a vibe from other clubs about whether this is going to get the go-ahead, a Rangers and Celtic Colt team in the lower league?
Yeah, well, as I said, we have discussed it. We discussed it 3 weeks ago, and it was quite positive. I think everybody, with everything that was laid out there, everything seemed very positive. I'm sure the second division teams would welcome £20,000 into their bank account every year for 5 years. It's an awful lot of money for them. And obviously the players would be getting the chance to play top flight football. I think the only negative would be for some of the clubs who have loaned a lot of Rangers and Celtic youngsters who, if Rangers and Celtic decide to go with another team, they'll be taken away from them. So that would be a big void for them. Some of the players that have delved into taking some of the good young Rangers and Celtic players. So, no, I think on the whole, as long as everything that's laid out, the promotion thing, they can't go any further than that. I think a majority would buy into that, but don't quote me on that when it goes to a vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we'll do is we'll try and get into your WhatsApp group and see if everybody stays with what they're saying on that group. Hugh, are you a fan of it or not?
Yeah, on balance, I am a fan of it. I think anything that brings in a bit of money to the Scottish game and to lower league clubs is a good thing. I think it's certainly got very strong attachments for attractions for Celtic and Rangers. I think one of the great problems with the Celtic and Rangers academies is finding a pathway for players to be ready to step into the first team. If you talk to any footballer at all worth his salt, he'll tell you that academy games are no use. that you've got to be playing against, the cliche is, but you've got to be playing against men. You've got to be playing against guys who are battling every minute because they've got a mortgage to pay or trying to earn a living at it, and that is a real test. So yeah, and it's something fresh and interesting as well. And I think it will bring money. I mean, if you talk to Roughie will know this as well. If you talk to lower league clubs, they're talking about the real attractions of selling out hospitality in these days, because fans of Rangers and Celtic will want to come along and see who's bubbling under, who's the next big thing at their club. So yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, John Coots says it would be to the detriment of Highland and Lowland League clubs. Well, no, John, the proposal would be 2 Highland and 2 Lowland League clubs in this mix as well, if it does indeed gather any pace. But we'll wait to see what the makeup of it is.
I think, Peter, as well, that the North would get maybe an Aberdeen Colt side, or a teams for the North would put in Colt side, so that would be the spin-off for that.
Yeah, okay. We'll wait to see what the makeup is and whether it gets the go-ahead. Listen, one thing that's rather worrying is David Martindale has mentioned that Scott Robinson, who I think has been a really good player for Livingston this season, it doesn't look as if he's going to play for Livingston again. Here's what the Livy boss had to say about this situation.
If I'm being honest, I hope so, but I can't see it. I would like him to, but I can't see it. But I don't know. It's out of my hands. He's unavailable for selection. I don't want to go into any more detail. If he becomes available for selection, then we'll look at that as and when the time comes.
Well, there's a story, Hugh.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those ones that's just open to everybody's speculation rather than anybody got a handle on it. There's various reports behind the scenes, but nothing that you could be strong enough to corroborate and see on record, certainly in a television programme, but an absolutely intriguing situation.
Yeah, breach of discipline is the early assessment of what the problem is, but what that breach is, we do not know. And of course, Roughie reports that he signed a pre-contract with Motherwell, still to be confirmed as well, but it doesn't look as if he's going to pull on a Livy shirt again, which I think is a blow, because he looked good for me. Yeah,
well, as you said there, it's just they're all adding things that we think. And you're right, since he's come into the game, he's been the top player. He's been the one that's been scoring the goals, that's been winning the big games, so you can tell by the manager's the way he's talking there, he's disappointed in the whole situation. To say it nothing to do with him, and other people will make that decision. I think we'll all just have to wait and see. Yeah, but you're right, it looks as if it's some kind of breach that is preventing them from getting selected.
Yeah, well, it's the final game before the split, so there's everything at stake this weekend. Of course, nothing really at stake other than the pride for Celtic, and of course the glory for Rangers if they could go there and get their third Old Firm victory. That certainly would please all the Rangers fans and confirm their rightful place at the top. Down at the bottom end, though, and in the middle section, there is still something to play for. Livingston take on Hibs. Hibs want to try and finish third. Steven Naismith, St Mirren take on Hamilton. St Mirren just hoping they can just get past, get a point, and then there's top 6, which I think many people think. They looked at Tony Fitzpatrick at the start of the season and said, hang on, you've put a bit of pressure on the manager, saying St Mirren are a top 6 side, but they could well clinch it at the weekend.
They could, and I like the ambition, if I'm honest, and that goes. They obviously had a clear plan in the summer of how they were going to invest, what their expectations were going to be, and how they were going to move forward. And they came out early boldly and said, we want to challenge for top 6, and they're one game away. I think that the kind of teams involved in that, I think it's a tough game for St Mirren away to Hamilton, just with it, if you like, being a slight derby, and it'll be a really tough game, but they're the ones in pole position. It's within their grasp. It's in their hands. So they're the ones that can go out and do it. St Johnstone at home, I think they'll feel comfortable that they can get a win on the back of how they've done in the cup, and I think the way the manager's now got a real structure, and everybody's buying into it. So it's definitely the weekend for the who's going to get in the top 6. I think St Mirren will do it because they've continuously said that's their aim and they've been in that position. So I think they'll be the ones that sit there at the end of the weekend.
And if you like people, Stephen, with ambition, Jim Goodwin certainly has it. He thinks, and he thought over the last couple of days, when he looked and assessed St Mirren's season, he mentioned in the press conferences he thought St Mirren could have actually finished higher if it wasn't for COVID.
I genuinely believe it wasn't for COVID. I think we'd have another 6 or 7 points on the board, to be perfectly honest, and we might be up there fighting for that 4th spot, which maybe sounds a little bit dramatic, but I do genuinely think that 2 or 3 of those defeats that we suffered on that 6 defeat run probably wouldn't have happened if I'd had my best team available.
Oh, what do you make of that, Hugh?
Yeah, I think it's really that's Jim Goodwin in a nutshell. Very positive, very proactive. I think he's. I mean, people forget that there was that bad run, and it seems crazy now, but there was, unrest, and there was talk of him, maybe not surviving the season, which I thought was madness at the time, and has proved to be madness going forward, because again, he's franked his reputation as a manager. I mean, I think what he did at Alloa was really impressive, and he's taken that on at St Mirren. And top 6 would be terrific for them, Peter. Especially at one time when they were really down in the mire in that 10th spot, when you're looking at real turmoil. So I think he'll get top 6. I think it's a tough game on Saturday, because Hamilton they've got very survival to fight for, but Jim Goodwin's done very, very well at St Mirren.
Yeah, good players, Roughie. Good balance to their side as well.
Yeah, I thought they used the window really well. They identified that he had a lot of young players who were coming through and beginning to stamp their authority in games, and he's added a bit of experience. So I think the signings have been very, very good. And he's possibly right in what he's saying. That all that COVID stuff knocked them in particular off for 2 or 3 weeks. So no, I think they've had a really, really good season. Although they'll be disappointed if they don't get in the top 6, but I still think it's been a good season for them.
Yeah, I'm backing them to make it as well. I think they will just sneak past Hamilton 2-1 and get that place in the top 6. It's going to be an interesting weekend, certainly at the bottom end as well. As Stephen mentioned there, Hamilton battling away to try and avoid relegation, or at least playoff as well. Lots to play for in the final game before the split. As far as the Champions League, we talked about the Europa League earlier on. We've all got our prediction on the Europa League. Champions League now, we're down to the last 8 teams after last night's results. City dispatching 2 past Mönchengladbach on the Tuesday. Real Madrid beating Atalanta. Bayern Munich 2-1 against Lazio, so convincing over the 2 legs. And Chelsea with a 2-0 win over Atletico Madrid. I had a little look at that game last night, and certainly Thomas Tuchel reckons that Chelsea are one of those teams that nobody will want in that draw tomorrow.
Fixtures like this and results like this give you the certain edge and the certain clue to achieve special things. You can only do this with a special atmosphere, and right now we are in this draw, and I'm pretty sure that nobody wants also to play against us, and this will be a super difficult challenge, of course, because we're in the last 8.
Yeah, Chelsea, he's got them well organised. Roughie, I'm not so sure they can do it. I think there are just 2 teams that everybody's looking at in Bayern Munich and Manchester City, and Paris Saint-Germain, I beg your pardon, is the third one. Can anybody stop either one of those sides, Roughie?
No, I don't think so, but he has got them on a run. He's got quality players there. He's got international players there. And they'll feel as if they can compete with most of the other teams that are left. But I think the other teams that you've just mentioned there have just got too many match winners, in their sides, guys that can do this the wee bit special to win these big games when it's nothing each. They come out with something unbelievable, a Champions League goal. And I think the other teams have got more than Chelsea in that respect.
Yeah, lots of people giving us their prediction on it. And Richard Henry says he thinks Bayern Munich will win it. We've all got our tip for it. Roughie's been tipping. Saint-Germain for more than a while.
Yeah, as he said, I've been tipping them for the last 5 years.
I think
come good sometime.
It's Roughie's prediction tactics. Is his prediction tactics, which you just scatter guns. Rangers 2-1, Rangers after penalties, Rangers this, Slavia that. Then he's gone the other way, the Champions League. If he says Paris Saint-Germain for 25 years, right, they're going to have to win it once, surely. And then you'll say, I told you. I was always confident. Paris Saint-Germain. I just think, though, Chelsea, I really think they're just under the radar, as the cliche goes. Because see, if you look at that Chelsea team here, it's not got a Ballon d'Or guy. When you talk about the top teams like Mbappe and Neymar or Lewandowski or Kimmich, who are playing really well, or Manchester City with their De Bruyne, etc. I just think that was a right good result. 3-0 against Atletico Madrid, and is a right good result. I mean, and if you look at their team, everybody's strong.
The biggest thing is their defensive unit. They've dispatched Atletico, who have led in La Liga all season, and with the quality they've got, they had hardly any chances. And over the 2 legs, it was a masterclass defensively, and that's probably their biggest tool in their armoury.
Yeah,
and I just look as well, Stephen. I just look at the guys they've got as well in the team.
Yeah, go on, you go.
Well, I just look at, people just forget about just the quality they've got. Everybody thinks, Havertz, he's a dud because he had 6 games at the beginning. A young guy who had 6 games, it wasn't great. Or, Werner, he'll not be any good as well. He's disappointed. They're hardly in the door. And they've turned round and suddenly produced a bit of form. And he's got really good pros there, as well. Jorginho, he's got that's a strong team.
He was speaking about the atmosphere, the manager there in his press conference. But see, last night when the second goal goes in, it zooms to the stand, and you've got Silva, Mount, and Jorginho all jumping for joy in the stand. You can tell the atmosphere around the place is brilliant, and that just sums it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, Roughie, I'm now veering heavily towards Manchester City. I just think this is the season they're going to win it. They are, at times, right across the pitch, looking formidable for me. I know you're PSG, Roughie, but Man City, Stephen, I don't know about you. Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm in that camp. I would like them to win it. I think I enjoy watching Guardiola's teams the most. When they're on song, they are sensational. And again, like you say, they've got like De Bruyne. Play him anywhere in the team, he impacts the game. They've got so many players that are just in sync at the moment. So for me, I hope they do it, and I think this season is their season.
You share that view, Roughie?
Well, I think he's got his goalkeeper sorted out a bit better. His back 4 look a lot more solid. We saw the deficiencies in, not having a good goalkeeper at the latter end of this competition, and certainly centre halves as well. Has been a big failing. But apart from that, the defence, as the guys have just said there, with the midfield and the attacking force that they've got, they just play good football. They play the kind of football you want to watch, and you want a team like that to win something. But I just always feel that there's going to be a shortfall at the end of the day.
Yeah, I know you're going PSG. Hugh, are you going Bayern Munich?
No, I'll go PSG. The only thing I'm like Stephen. I want Man City to win it because I love watching them. And I think De Bruyne he's one of my favourite players, Peter. The only thing I've got against Man City is I think sometimes Pep thinks too much in Europe. He always finds a way, or always seems to find a way to lose to a team that's inferior. I know you had that spectacular success at at Barcelona, but remember he didn't do anything really in Europe with Bayern Munich. And Manchester City's results in the Champions League at the real business end have been really disappointing. They've gone out to teams that they shouldn't have gone out to. So I think if Pep keeps his head straight and doesn't maybe overcomplicate it, they've got a great chance. But I just think Paris Saint-Germain at the moment, they've got Pochettino in, who's just steadying the ship, not creating too many sort of problems for their big stars. And I just think they probably have just got the edge. But I think it's a fascinating competition now. You know, I actually put Chelsea in the frame now as well.
Wow, incredible. Yep, you're right. It's so tough. I mean, if I was talking about my heart, I want Liverpool to win it, but my head's just saying Manchester City, to be perfectly honest with you. But we shall see. Now, we are emphatically saying that Rangers are going to win tonight. Fingers crossed that they do get the win that they need. I think Rangers will win 2-1 in the Old Firm game on Sunday. Roughie, what about you?
Unfortunately, I'm going to sit in the fence. I think this game tonight might take a wee bit out of some of the Rangers players. I think Celtic have got a lot to prove at the weekend, and I think they'll raise their game a wee bit, so I'm going to go one each.
Yeah, one each for you. Okay. Every time you open your gob with a prediction, Roughie, there's just a little wry smile comes across Steven Naismith's face. Just waiting to see what's going to come out.
We have got a show tomorrow, haven't we?
Yeah, you can change. You can change. Once he's off, come up with something different, Roughie. Hugh McDonald, what's your prediction?
Well, you look at it and you want to make cases for both teams, and I find it really difficult to make a case for Celtic because there doesn't seem to be an identity about the team at the moment. They seem to be the top players as well. Maybe have their subconsciously will have their minds elsewhere. I'm thinking of Edouard in particular. I think a really potent and on-fire Edouard, is central to anything that Celtic would seek to do on Sunday. So I think it's going to be very difficult for them. I think tonight's game will take stuff out of Rangers. Will take stuff out of the legs. Will be a draining match because they're going to play a good team, and it's so that will drain them. But I still think it's very hard to make a case for Celtic on Sunday, Peter. I think the best Celtic can hope for would be a draw. And if you're looking for a prediction, I'd take a narrow Rangers win.
Wow, we got there in the end, Stephen. That was a long... Do you know what that was like? That was the school days when Hugh used to play for the school team and he'd get the head down and he'd just go on a wee mazy and he wouldn't look up to see if there was a pass on, and then eventually you got there, Stephen. But that's what's called his... This is what you suffer from sometimes, Stephen, and I want you to worry about it. That's what Hugh, I call him, that's his BBC days. 6,000 months where 30 would do. Any chance of giving us your prediction, please?
I agree with every single word you said there. And I think it'll be a narrow win for Rangers. And it'll sum off a great season with a Morelos goal. 1-0 Rangers, Morelos. First Old Firm goal.
There you are. That first Old Firm goal. Who are we to argue with you? Listen, great to chat to you guys. Great to... read so many good positive messages as well. Thank you very much on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitter as well. Don't forget to tell your friends. Hit the follow, hit the share and hit the subscribe on our YouTube channel as well. From Steven Naismith, from Hugh McDonald, Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold Clark